2 days ago, we watched Donald Trump debate Kamala Harris, the most radical far-left senator in American history, dubbed that by a left-wing agency when she was senator in California, and Trump and Kamala, the showdown on ABC News. It was a flaming garbage pile. It was very difficult to watch. I wanted to rip my hair out. But listen, we're going to cover it today. We're going to provide responses to this insanity because both Trump and Kamala Harris, unfortunately, are not pro-life. And Trump needs to double down. He doesn't need to back down. He needs to double down on protecting the unborn. And unfortunately, he's been backing down. So they had a lot of tit for tats on kind of the family, the culture, the unborn, the pro-life issue. We wanted to provide a breakdown and a response to all of these things, especially pertaining to the media's role in lying on national television and carrying water for Kamala Harris, because they're not journalists, they're journalistic prostitutes for the culture of death who have sold their souls to Moloch. That's just fact check true. Okay, so we're going to do a breakdown here. Buckle up. We're going to get into it all. We're going to provide clips for you. You got to share these, okay, on social media, because the culture, Americans, our fellow citizens need to know the truth about so many of the issues that the media will lie about to make sure that their favorite candidate, Kamala Harris, becomes president and America is completely doomed and lost forever. Buckle up. We're going to get into it all today at the Seth Gruber Show. Welcome to the show today, guys. So, oh my gosh, that was a flaming garbage pile. I couldn't even watch the whole thing 2 nights ago. I wanted to pull my hair and my teeth out. That debate, I don't even know where to begin. We're going to go through a series of clips today. As mentioned in the intro, we're going to talk about some of these as it pertains to the family, the unborn, the culture, and unfortunately, it's a bummer that this has to be said, okay? But we actually don't have a pro-life candidate in this presidential election. Now, let me bring a little bit of nuance to that statement, okay? Yes, Trump should be credited with overturning Roe versus Wade. He takes credit for that, and he does deserve it. Now, whether that was a political machination or an overflow of his love for the unborn, we'll let the Lord decide that, but I think the answer is pretty clear. Unfortunately, President Trump does not seem to really care for the unborn child at all, but he knows how unpopular Roe versus Wade was with even many moderate Democrats and moderate pro-choicers who don't think that the federal government ought to have foisted the right to abortion onto all 50 states. Okay, but we did a whole episode about this. We've talked about this on this show as it pertains to Trump, Carrie Lake, Trump's influence on the GOP, his pro-choice rhetoric's influence on the GOP, which has walked away from their historic commitment to the unborn child, to the right to life of the baby from the moment of conception, and even actually weakening language on marriage. If you read the Republican National Committee's platform now on same-sex marriage, which, by the way, is a misnomer. There's no such thing as same-sex marriage. And on abortion, it's way weaker than it used to have been. In fact, the Republican National Committee's platform now on abortion would basically allow 95-ish% of all the abortions in America. That this is a shocking, difficult word for people to hear. Now, listen, I'm not saying don't vote at all. You're always voting for the lesser of two evils, but we need to begin doing the cultural work to change the nature of our politics and our politicians. If we want better from our politicians, from our candidates running for highly significant, influential seats as Republicans, we have to do the cultural work of demanding more, of holding their feet to the fire, of holding them accountable. And that's going to mean that evangelicals and Christians are going to have to get a lot more engaged, a lot louder, start throwing a lot bigger of a stink until the candidates running or the elected politicians get in line with what we want. Guys, that's called a constitutional republic, okay? That's just how America works. We, the people, are the sovereign. If we don't like our options, if we don't like how they're talking, do something about it. Raise your voice, okay? We have an episode coming out, okay, next week with a good buddy of mine Jason Storms, who's a warrior hero in the pro-life movement and in the church, in my opinion. And we talked about how the pushback of the pro-life movement did help shift Trump's language a little bit. And we'll talk about that more in this episode, but it's a great sort of vignette or lesson about the importance of raising your voice, about the importance of us exercising our sovereign political will. Okay, so anyways, we want to get into these clips, but I just thought it was important for us to highlight this, because you're going to see some of this come out in some of the clips between former President Trump and Kamala Harris. Arrest pro-life sidewalk counselors, sleep my way up the levers of power, live like my communist, cultural Marxist daddy taught me to, VP, current presidential candidate. You're going to see in their arguments and tit for tats that Trump continues to double down, triple down on straddling the fence when it comes to the babies, to the unborn. Trump is literally trying to split the baby on abortion. The problem with trying to split the baby on abortion politically is that you actually end up splitting the baby on abortion. Okay, we're not like, these are human beings. These are children, little babies, where we all came from, y'all. So when you try to split the baby on the abortion topic, babies are actually split. Babies are literally still ripped apart in half, in multiple pieces, because it's still legal to kill them because you tried to stand in the middle of the road. You tried to straddle the fence on abortion. Who was it that said, straddle the fence, take Pickett in the groin? Stand in the middle of the road, get run over by a truck. Okay, so, all right, let's get into the Trump-Harris debate from 2 nights ago. We're going to respond to all of this. We're going to give you some clarity. We're going to rebut and debunk some of the lies. But here's a clip where Kamala Harris talks about caring for families and children. And I'm sorry, but I just can't take it seriously. Let's play clip 1.
We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children.
So there you go. So Kamala Harris, the most, remember, it was a liberal agency that rated her the furthest left senator of all the 50 senators in America when she was senator in California. The furthest left, the hardcore left. Like, by the way, we have a word for this. It's communist. Okay. If you're a super far radical leftist, we have political categories for that. You're called a communist. Okay. And by the way, Kamala Harris is, maybe we should do a whole episode on that sometime. Her father is like a communist Marxist, like freaking weirdo. Okay. But don't mistake being a freaking weirdo for not being dangerous. Kamala Harris is a very dangerous politician. But Kamala Harris cares for families and children. Oh, we have to have bigger child tax credits because they can't even buy car seats or clothes. And so, wait, well, why don't they just kill their babies then? That's literally what you support. Why don't you just say, go get an abortion? That's going to be way cheaper. If finances is the problem, then a child tax credit is not going to be all that helpful in the grand scheme of things. A $6,000 child tax credit for having another kid, like, how expensive is it to have one kid, to have another kid? How much does one kid cost until they leave the home? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just kill the kid. That's what you support, Kamala Harris. Why are you trying to give government hand? Oh, right. Because you're trying to buy their vote, right? Because you're just trying to give handouts to poorer Americans as you positioned yourself as the compassionate, loving candidate who's just gonna big government daddy war bucks. We're gonna give you more money. We're gonna give you more money to have children if you don't slaughter them in the name of radical feminism. But we do hope that you slaughter them in the name of radical feminism, because we really need to have less kids because of the overpopulation. Huitzilopochtli Aztec sun god, who's really angry with you for having kids. And more babies were killed in the year immediately following Roe versus Wade than any year reported in the last 10 years. And so just kill your kids, but if you don't, here's a bunch of money from the government. Okay, listen, I'm not saying child tax credits are a bad idea. Okay, I'm all about the IRS taking less money from me, believe me. But this pontificating about caring for families and children from the woman who not only supports abortion through point of birth, she supports abortion after birth, infanticide. She's voted against anti-infanticide bills. We'll get into all of that. We're gonna keep playing these clips, but you just need to be aware that this woman is a political animal. This woman is a political machine, and you'll capture that as we go through these clips. Okay, she's probably also one of the worst spoken politicians I've ever seen. Somehow, I think she avoided cackling like a hen that's filled with legion, a legion hen, a demonically infested chicken. Somehow she didn't do that in this debate, probably because she was told to stop that by her advisors, because literally even the hardcore left cringes when Kamala Harris starts laughing. Anyways, conversation for another time. But like, this woman, Kamala Harris, is a political animal. This woman wants power like no one I've ever seen before. And I believe she licks her finger, sticks it up, and see which ways the wind's blowing. I don't know if this woman believes anything. Like, what I'm saying is that if we had a conservative family culture in America, okay, I don't support this, but just go with me, okay? If Kamala Harris lived in Gaza, okay, where radical Islamists push homosexuals off of buildings for being gay, I think Kamala Harris would pass legislation and sponsor legislation to protect radical Islamists who shove homosexuals off of buildings. I don't support shoving homosexuals off of buildings. I think Kamala Harris would side with wherever the culture is that allows her to accrue political power. And I know that might sound insane and radical, but if you don't believe that, you don't know enough about Kamala Harris's legacy. Go back and listen to an old episode we did just on her pro-abortion record. It's incredibly scandalous. Okay, here is another clip about Trump addressing the Florida amendment. Here we go. Play clip.
Of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short, and you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before. He said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that.
So, I mean, Trump is right to actually highlight that the Democrats want 4th trimester abortions. 4th trimester abortions, infanticide. He's right to do that. But the moderators were a joke. Did you watch the whole debate? That was not a presidential debate. That was a 3 versus 1 thing. Some of the lies that even the moderators were peddling, the lies that Kamala Harris would say about some of her border record, about some of her support for mandatory buybacks of guns, like some of the stuff we're going to get to later about like transgender surgeries for prison inmates. Like, they didn't address her on any of her lies, but they always said if Trump they thought was lying. This was such a political hackery of a debate. It's ridiculous. We need to have Elon Musk host these and be the moderator. Anyways, that would be hilarious. Or Joe Rogan. How about that? But they were right in the sense that Trump has signaled a change in his position and rhetoric regarding the abortion amendment in Florida. Now, if you don't know what's going on at the state level, there is a push now by the radical left and the pro-abortion movement and the abortion industry to seek to codify abortion through point of birth into as many state constitutions as possible. Do you understand? Because Roe got overturned, so it goes back to the states. So now states can ban abortion, but it also means states can codify abortion as a California, Virginia, Florida, Colorado constitutional right, so that all pro-life legislative efforts at the state level would be dead on arrival if they codify this as a right into the state constitution. So there's an amendment being pushed in Florida that will be voted on in November that would codify abortion as a right in the state of Florida. Trump had signaled a couple weeks ago that he would be voting for it. He said, we need longer than 6 weeks. People need longer than 6 weeks. What does he mean? Gestationally, like to kill a baby. And then me and, hey, Lila Rose absolutely ripped him a new one. That was awesome. A ton of pro-life organizations and leaders and conservative pundits began to speak out against this. I'm confident that Trump's team freaked out, completely freaked out that they'd be losing a lot of the pro-life vote, okay? And then like a day or two later, he comes out and says, I'm voting against the radical abortion amendment in Florida. That's an example of what I said at the beginning of the show, of we the people holding candidates and politicians' feet to the fire and say, you do what we want because you govern by our consent. And we need more of that in the conservative movement, by the way, if we're going to reclaim the Republican Party as a conservative bastion that it used to be. But that hasn't been true for some time now. By the way, it's hilarious that like the candidates like Kamala Harris says we can't trust you because you change your position so many times. Kamala Harris changes her political positions more than a Kama Sutra book. Okay? Are you freaking kidding me? That woman is a political pretzel that can be bent into as many weird positions as possible based off of where the culture and the political winds are. Okay? Like, and I gave you some of those examples, by the way. Like remember when Biden said, Kamala Harris, you're the border czar. You're in charge of the border. And then she said, I'm the border czar, and she went to the border. And then she announced that she's running for president, and the whole liberal establishment media responds to Trump saying what a disaster Kamala Harris running the border is. And they're like, she was never the border czar. And Kamala's like, I was never the border czar. Okay, like the amount of time she's changed her position. You can go to X right now, Twitter. Thank God that Elon Musk brought that platform. And you'll see Kamala Harris saying, we need mandatory buybacks of your guns. Okay, and then she's like, I don't support mandatory buybacks of your guns. Okay, so these moderators pressing Trump on changing his positions, while he did because of conservative pro-life pressure, it just shows what a hackery that, who hosted this? ABC? Yeah, ABC is. Okay, so now you know that Kamala Harris has selected Tim Walz as her VP candidate, right? He's the governor of Minnesota. We did an episode recently on the Seth Gruber Show, just a couple weeks back, go find it, about Tim Walz's record when it pertains to some of the trans stuff, the family, the culture, the unborn child. He is a radical by every stretch of the imagination. Here is a clip of discussing Tim Walz's abortion stamp as Trump continues to go after them for their radicalism. Let's play this clip.
But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me.
So you see Kamala says that's not true. Later you're actually going to see how the moderators say that 4th trimester abortions are a lie. We'll play that one in a second later on. But like, this is Kamala saying, that's not true. No, I don't. Tim Walz, we don't support abortions after birth, 4th trimester abortions. The word for that, of course, is infanticide. We did a whole episode on this on Tim Walz, but here's a fun little clip for social media. Tim Walz does support infanticide. He does support 4th trimester abortions because he changed the law in Minnesota to not require mandatory reporting for the born alive infants who were accidentally slipped out of the vaginal canal in the process of a failed abortion. He supports that because he didn't want it to be mandatory reported. 5 babies or more were born alive during botched abortions in Minnesota, where Tim Walz is governor, and left to die on the table in 2021 alone, under his watch as governor. By the way, 2 of these babies were given, quote, comfort care instead of medical care, violating state law. 3 other infants in Minnesota were born alive during abortions in 2019, which was Tim Walz's first year as governor, and they too perished without life-saving care, according to a July 1st, 2020 report from the same state agency. So Tim Walz simply repealed a law that allowed this infanticide and legalized 9-month abortions, and he eliminated language that protected born-alive abortion survivors. So now an abortionist or doctor doesn't have to report the fact to state authorities that a baby was born alive during a botched abortion procedures. So according to Tim Walz, Kamala Harris VP pick for president, it's not the dead babies that's the problem. See, it's not the infants that were born alive during a failed abortion as they're lying on the steel cold table dying. That's not the problem. The problem is that he was being required to report the dead babies, which makes his political career look pretty deadly, scandalous, and evil, so let's just get rid of that reporting, okay? So Trump is not saying it's fully legal to kill babies after birth. He's saying that that's what Tim Walz wants, and that's the proof of his political record. Boom, clip it, Instagram. Okay, Kamala Harris is lying to you, and so are the moderators who carry waters for the baby killers. Ugh! It ticks me off, and people are going to watch this. They're going to watch the presidential debate, and they're going to go, that's crazy. No one supports that. Democrats don't support that. By the way, that's mostly true. Most run-of-the-mill voting Democrats, normal Americans, don't support that. But the Democrat Party does. And we need voices, and we need clarity. We need the fake news media to go away, and we need journalists, and we need truth speakers. We need pastors. We need normal Americans to speak up, to push back against this, to share the clip I just went through, proving that the Democrat Party, Kamala Harris, who's running for the most powerful position in the world, the president of the free world, believes we should kill babies after they're born, and we just don't want people to find out that that's what we support. Okay, we'll get into more of that in just 1 second. Here is clip 4: Trump's stance on exceptions for abortion. It's insanely frustrating. The Republican Party is saying there's just some babies we're going to need to kill if we want to win elections. Play clip.
I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important.
So, by the way, I don't know where he's getting that percentage, actually. I'm not sure where that comes from, the 85% of Republicans support exceptions. I haven't seen that. That could be the case. I wouldn't be surprised. That would be the Republican Party sort of become a joke. But if you say we need to protect the right to kill some babies, then there's no limiting principle on your ideology. There's no limiting principle on your position on abortion. Rape, incest, life of the mother. By the way, that's a complete lie. Abortion's never medically necessary to save mom's life. Let me say that again. Abortion is never medically necessary to save mom's life. I made this point with my buddy Charlie Kirk at a Freedom Night in Phoenix 2 years ago, and we posted it on Instagram. It went semi-viral, and I got fact-checked by it. I got Reuters or whoever it was, I don't know which one. They're all run by crazy lib leftists. Fact check. No, Seth is wrong. Sometimes you have to dissect and rip the limbs off of a child one by one, or suction them into a vacuum catheter tube to save mom's life. No, you don't. You just induce early labor with Pitocin, deliver the baby early, or perform a cesarean section, a C-section, to remove the baby. So if the pregnancy is what is threatening mom's life, if the pregnancy continues and kills mom, then how do you end the pregnancy? Childbirth. Turns out childbirth, safer for a mom than an abortion. They'll fact check that one too, by the way, okay? And I'm going to be going on the Alex Clark show this month to actually talk about all of the lies about abortion safety to women. Obviously, abortion is wrong because it kills a baby, not because it's unsafe to a mother. But the left in the abortion industry has used that line, that abortion's really safe for mothers. It's super safe. It's actually safer than childbirth. That's what they say, by the way. They say that childbirth is 4 times more dangerous than abortion, or that abortion is 4 times safer for a mother than giving birth to the baby. It's a complete lie. I can prove it. So even when Trump says life of the mother, no, you don't need an abortion in life of the mother. That's more dangerous for the mother who's pregnant. You just induce early labor or perform a C-section. Anyways, that's set aside. Trump says we need to kill babies for rape and incest. Why? Why do we need to do that? I don't understand. The radical left doesn't compromise at all. They don't say there's some babies we should protect. They say there's no babies we should protect. We need abortion through point of birth. We need to federalize it again. Through point of birth, the mother could be dilating. Remember, when Trump talks about Virginia in that earlier clip, he's referring to Ralph Northam, who was the governor at the time. And this was 2019. And Ralph Northam said, Ralph Northam in 2019, let me recap the story for you, had a legislator named Kathy Tran, okay? Kathy Tran, I don't know if she's still a politician, I haven't, but she was in 2019. And she sponsored a bill that was basically a mimic of New York's Reproductive Health Act. Do you remember when New York lit the One World Trade Center pink, and the dumber of the Cuomo brothers, Andrew Cuomo, as governor of New York, signed it, and it codified abortion through point of birth, and it actually changed the penal code so that if a pregnant mother was murdered, the murderer would only be charged with 1 count of homicide, the mother's, and not 2 counts of homicide. So, anyways, that was 2019. Some of you remember that. Some of that radicalized some of you into the pro-life movement, by the way. And so Kathy Tran in Virginia basically had almost an identical bill in Virginia. And there's this viral clip. Maybe we'll play it on the show sometime, but you guys should go find this clip. And it's a judge or a legislator or a Republican asking Kathy Tran about the specifics of her bill. And he said, I want to know how long your bill would allow abortion for, your law would allow abortion for. And he asked Kathy Tran, the sponsor of this bill in Virginia, under Ralph Northam, to whom Trump is referring. He asked her, let me paint a scenario for you. A woman is dilating and about to give birth. Would she be allowed to legally request an abortion according to your law? Kathy Tran went like this. Like you could tell she didn't want to answer it. And she said, yes, my law would allow that. You might have to go to the Wayback Machine to find this. So listen, the Democrats do defend abortion through point of birth. But Kamala Harris has to say, no, that's a lie, because she knows how damaging admitting that is for her political viability, because most Democrats, run-of-the-mill Democrats in America, don't like that. They don't support that at all. So because of that bill, okay, I'm recounting the story, Governor Ralph Northam was asked on a radio show about that bill. And they was like, the radio host was like, Governor Northam, like point of birth? Like what if a baby was born alive? Like what, it like, you know, cause like that's point of birth. Like the baby could just slip out. What if the baby's born alive as they're preparing to do an abortion or they're actively performing an abortion? And Governor Ralph Northam said, and by the way, he was a pediatrician before he became governor, which is even more sick and ironic. He said, we would make the baby comfortable. We would resuscitate the baby if that's what the mother wanted. And then the mother and the doctor would have a conversation. End quote. A conversation? About what? You'd resuscitate the baby if that's what the mother wanted? What are you talking about? That's a patient. You're a pediatrician, Governor Ralph Northam, you sick demoniac. The child is no longer in the vaginal canal, you freaking weirdo. Do you understand? So that's what Trump's referring to. When he pushes the Democrats on defending that kind of stuff, like, that's true. Like, that happened, okay? Don't let them memory hole that. But it's insanely frustrating for Trump to begin granting that some babies should be killed. Why should we kill babies? The result of rape or incest. Why should the baby suffer for the crimes of the father? Right? Because the baby's innocent, the mother's innocent, she was raped. Hey, I support castrations. That's what Trump should have said. He should have said, we don't think that you should kill a baby for the sin of coming into existence. We should protect that baby and the mother, but we should cut that guy's testicles off. And that rapist should go to prison for life. That's what I support. So Kamala, I have way more compassion on the victims of sexual assault than you do. You and your policies would spring sexual criminals from the clink and get them back on the street. My policies would make sure that rapists lose their testicles, the family jewels, and go to prison for life, because part of compassion is justice. And part of justice is making sure that a rapist and sexual assault criminal never gets to be around women again. Why can't we give those answers? If you can kill some babies, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to kill other babies. But first, we'd like to thank our sponsor of the Seth Gruber Show, Every Life Diaper. Every Life Diaper Company. And listen, the only pro-life diaper company. This is very basic. If conservatives and Christians would use their wallets to fight back against woke corporatism and the destruction and deterioration of our culture, we could turn things around, because money talks. Money talks. And if those having more babies, conservatives, would only buy baby products with conservative baby companies, then we could begin defunding pro-abortion baby companies, which is actually almost all of them. Isn't that shocking? So if you want to help create a culture of life, you got to get your diapers, your wipes, and your baby stuff from Every Life Diaper. Go to everylife.com, use promo code SETH10, Seth10 for 10% off your first order, and let them know that we sent you, because actually they support the Seth Gruber Show because they're a sponsor here, and you're supporting a culture of life. Tell your pregnancy resource center in your city and the nursery at your church. Go call up your church and say, don't buy Huggies, okay? Don't buy Coterie. Go to everylife.com, promo code Seth10. Support a culture of life by defunding a culture of death. Thank you, Every Life, for sponsoring the Seth Gruber Show. So let's go to the next clip. Trump here talks about Roe going to the states. It's all about the states, baby. This is what he keeps saying. We just have to put it to the states. The states should be able to decide. I don't care anymore. We overturned Roe. Let's play a clip.
Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote.
So that's mostly true, actually, right? That many liberal, not like hardcore leftists, obviously, like the entire left in the abortion industry wants Roe v. Wade again. Like Kamala Harris has been saying on the campaign road, and even as VP before she's still VP, before she announced her candidacy for presidency, that we need to federalize abortion again. But that's what Roe did. So the radical left and the entire Democrat Party wants that. But like most normal liberals, you know what I'm talking about? Like your family members, like funny liberal Aunt Sally, who still talks about, you know, the hippie revolution and going to Beatles concerts and sleeping around. You know, like the old school liberals, like they have a lot of bad ideas, but like they still like you and you can have a conversation with them and they don't want to rip third trimester babies out of the uterus. Like many of those people did believe that Roe v. Wade was misplaced, that it shouldn't have been codified at the federal level. And so Trump is right. And that's a good thing that it went back to the states. But this is the beginning of the pro-life movement, not the end of the pro-life movement. Because now we have to ban abortion at every state level until it's banned at the federal level. But unfortunately, what Trump continues to do is he continues to celebrate the overturning of Roe, but then come out against states banning abortion. And it's really hurting him. And I want to tell him if he watches this to stop it. It's actually hurting you because people like me are confused, okay? Pro-life voters are confused. If overturning Roe is a good thing, which Trump celebrates, then what does that mean? It means you're celebrating states' rights to ban abortion. That's what that means. Roe getting overturned means states now get to decide. That's literally the definition of the overturning of Roe. So if one state bans abortion, he should say, this is wonderful. Go do your work. Go do the work now, pro-life movement. But when Arizona, earlier this year, had a pre-Roe 1860s, was it 1860s, 1863? I might be slightly off on the date. Had an old abortion ban that went into effect because of the overturning of Roe. Trump was coming out saying that goes too far. That goes too far. What do you mean that goes too far? That's federalism at work. That's the states exercising their sovereignty, which is what you celebrated when you overturned Roe. So it's been very confusing, and I wish you would stop it. All right, then the next clip here is the moderator. The moderator stepping in and saying, Trump's a liar. Play clip.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Yeah, thank you, you hack job, ABC News. Okay, so we have to unpack this, okay? Do you guys remember the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act? This was Ben Sasse, senator from Nebraska, 2019. It was actually because of Ralph Northam's infanticidal apologetics comments that led Ben Sasse to propose this bill, the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. And all it said was, it was going to be a federal bill, of course, is that if a baby was born alive in the process of a failed botched abortion, then the baby had to be cared for, loved. If it was at an abortion center, then the baby would need to be transferred to a hospital and be given the same level of medical attention and care as any other baby would receive, born at the same gestational age. And the authorities and those involved with, receiving this born alive baby that was supposed to be aborted, needed to report the fact to the authorities that this infant, this baby, was born alive when it was supposed to be dissected and dismembered 6 inches away in the vaginal canal. Because, you know, when you slip out of the vaginal canal, you know how it works, right? The fetus fairy sprinkles magical personhood conferring fairy dust on the child, and so when the last toe leaves the vaginal canal, it's a person now. Oh my gosh, that so the magical birth canal. So that's how that works, and so that the baby would have to be cared for, loved, and you have to report the fact that, oh well, here's an infant now. Sorry, mom, I know you paid for an abortion, which means you requested a dead child, and we didn't deliver on what you paid for. The baby's here now. So that was going to be federal protections, and the bill was going to have teeth. It was going to criminalize doctors and abortionists who allowed the baby to die or didn't even report the fact to the authorities that the baby survived a botched abortion. Nancy Pelosi vetoed that bill over 100 times. Did you hear that? an anti-infanticide bill was vetoed by Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats over 100 times. The only Democrat senators to vote for that bill were Joe Manchin, Bob Casey, and Doug Jones. The only Democrat senators who were uncomfortable with the direction of their party and were willing to stand against it. And the Democrats' defense when they voted against anti-infanticide bills was they said, we already have laws against infanticide. That's what that ABC News moderator just said, right? There's no state in America where infanticide is legal. Okay, sure, but when you don't punish anything, then you can get away with it, and so it's still happening. Trump's point is not that there's a bunch of states in America where it's legal in the law to just chop the head off of an infant. He's saying that's what the Democrats are pushing for, and actually sometimes this is happening in America. That's his point, okay? But the Democrat, well, we already have laws against infanticide. So Ben Sasse and the Republicans who have this anti-infanticide bill, they were arguing at the time, it's just a Trojan horse bill. Yeah, it's a Trojan horse bill with a far-right anti-abortion goal. Alexandra DeSantis at National Review made a great point at the time. She said, in fact, there is no existing federal law that requires doctors to provide medical care for infants who survive an abortion procedure. Did you guys know that? There's no existing federal law that requires medical providers and doctors to care for infants who survive a botched abortion. The Born Alive Infant Protection Act under George W. Bush from 2002 did establish that the term person, human being, and child in federal law includes every infant born alive even after an abortion. But the 2002 Born Alive Infant Protection Act instituted no penalties, listen to this, no penalties for physicians who neglect to care for such infants. DeSantis makes the point that as of 2014, only 26 states mandated care for infants born alive after an attempted abortion. And state laws, as we know, can and do change, like in New York with the Reproductive Health Act, where they changed the penal code to remove any form of acknowledgement in the law that the unborn child could be a person or could warrant protections in our laws. So why would Senate Democrats, and who voted against the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act that would have criminalized people who allowed infants to die who were born alive during failed abortions? What senator voted against that anti-infanticide bill when she was a senator in California? Kamala Harris. That's what Trump should have pointed out. And so why would Senate Democrats like Kamala Harris ignore the lack of laws requiring states to provide medical care to babies born alive during failed abortions? Why would they ignore? Because that's what they want. They want to expand the killing of babies even after birth, okay? So when the moderator says there's no state in America that where infanticide is legal, okay, but it's still happening because there's no criminalization. There's no penalties for physicians or doctors who allow the baby to die. We just talked about Tim Walz in Minnesota. We have literally a state agency report from July 1st, 2020 showing that actually in 2019 and 2021, at least 7 babies or more were allowed to die on a table and were not given life-saving care even though they were born alive during the process of a failed abortion. We have a word for that. It's called infanticide. We literally have proof that this has happened in America because there's no penalties. Kamala Harris's VP pick, Tim Walz, changed the law in Minnesota to remove reporting requirements for babies who were born alive during botched failed abortions. That's infanticide. That's allowing it. Even if it's not quote unquote legal, it's being allowed and nothing's being done about it. No penalties are happening. ABC News, you political abortion hacks. But most of the American people are not going to hear this. They're not going to see this. I don't have a big enough platform. Okay? And they're just going to go along with what they heard on ABC News. Okay? Let's continue going through these clips. So this is Kamala Harris whining and complaining and mourning about how states are banning abortion. Let's play clip.
And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral.
So I don't know what Kamala Harris is talking about. Trump abortion bans. The dude's literally saying, like, 6 weeks is not enough time to kill a baby, and we definitely need to kill babies in rape and incest. Like, Trump's literally been saying that for months. It's evil. It's wrong. I disagree with it. But Kamala Harris attacking him for abortion bans when he said, well, the states can do whatever they want. How is he responsible for abortion bans that state legislators are doing now? So she's just inciting the radical left into treating Trump as some like chauvinist man who wants to control women's reproductions, like some Handmaid's Tale thing. Listen, Trump needs to be more pro-life, but he's not responsible for state-level laws. Okay, so she's calling them Trump abortion bans. I don't even know what that means. But yes, that's right, Kamala. You should freak out. You should start urinating in your pants. You haven't seen anything yet. This ain't your grandpapa's pro-life movement. This is a new Protestantism, which is actually the old Protestantism, which is what you call Christian nationalism, because we recognize someone's religion is going to be in charge. Like, someone's religion and the worldviews that go along with that religion will end up being ensconced in our polity, will end up being ensconced in our laws, because nature abhors a vacuum and something will always take its place. So yes, we're advocating for Christian ideals to fill that place, because if not, our grandchildren will be raised in gulags, and you're going to throw photographers and bakers and pastors in jail who won't play part in same-sex marriages. So your neo-pagan revivalism is evil and stupid, and Christianity is good, and so we should have Christian laws in this country. And when have you noticed, guys, are you listening right now, that when Christianity is taken out, we just go back to demon worship? Like, man needs a creed. Like, man needs religion. It's either going to be pure and undefiled religion, or it's going to be demon worship. Choose this day whom you will serve. So that's right, Kamala Harris. Start freaking out. We're going to be banning abortion in as many states as possible until we get a federal ban. Now, here's where Kamala talks about her faith. Oh, her faith, right? And worshiping, is it Moloch? I'm not exactly sure. Play clip.
And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
So that's because your pastor, Kamala, is Raphael Warnock, who calls himself a pro-choice pastor and is a senator from Georgia. That, by the way, Lecrae, that Christian music, pathetic excuse for a Christian music rap artist, helped get elected. That's right. Lecrae performed his music at a Get Out the Vote rally to help the two pro-abortion Marxist Democrat senators win their Senate seats in Georgia. Raphael Warnock is really the epitome of what Kamala's talking about. Like, we don't have to abandon our faith to support killing babies. She says to believe that the government shouldn't be involved in women's uteruses. But what she means by that is you could be a Christian who loves Jesus and also sanction the slaughter of your Savior in the womb. Oops. Oh, that's right. Jesus entered human history in a uterus. So that means you're celebrating Mary's right to murder your Savior if you're a pro-choice Christian, which is to commit a Christological heresy, because that would mean that Christ was at some point fully God but not fully human, violating the doctrine of the incarnation, which is completely central to your belief in Christianity in the first place. So it's almost like there's no such thing as a pro-choice Christian. Well, but that's what she's talking about, right? The government shouldn't be involved in women's uteruses. The government should be able to tell women what to do with their body. We're not telling women what to do with their bodies. No one's telling you who to have sex with or who not to have sex with. What we're saying is you shouldn't kill babies that are the creation and product of your sexual choices, because it turns out women's bodily autonomy starts at the moment of conception, and so I don't think that preborn women should be slaughtered in the name of radical feminism. Shocker! So now, here is probably maybe the most disgusting moment of the entire debate. This is when Kamala attempts to compare miscarriages with abortions, because if you really think about it, like if your head is so far up your own rectum, it's coming out your face again, then you might realize that miscarriages and abortions are the same thing. Play clip.
Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that.
So this was a lie that the abortion industry and far left groups dumped a lot of money into spreading in Kansas and other states that ended up rejecting the protection of preborn children in their state constitution. And I had even pro-life people message me during 2022 when this lie was really taking off, because remember, Roe v. Wade had just gotten overturned. And they were saying, oh my gosh, so like if abortion gets banned at a state level because Roe's overturned, and a woman has a miscarriage, and so the baby's already dead in her uterus, but the way you remove a miscarried baby, oftentimes, if the baby's too big to just, you know, unfortunately be miscarried normally at home, and the baby's too big for that, so it requires a DNC, a dilation and curettage. But wait, a DNC is the surgical name for an abortion. So then really they're the same thing. And so, Seth, aren't you saying that a woman who has a miscarriage in a state where abortion is illegal, that Republican white men are going to force that baby to rot in the woman's uterus because the surgical procedure used to remove the miscarried baby is the same procedure used to perform some abortions? And so pro-life men want miscarried babies to stay in the wombs and uteruses of women and rot, therefore causing infection to mothers who miscarried their babies. So pro-lifers want women to die from infection and sepsis. Oh my gosh! Like, some of the biggest political bull I've ever heard. And the abortion movement and Planned Parenthood dumped so many millions into funding those lies that literally there were pro-life people messaging me, asking me if that was the case. They said the same thing about ectopic pregnancy, the baby implants in the fallopian tube. Oh, doesn't that mean we can't remove the baby from the fallopian tube because that's technically an abortion? No, it's not. Miscarriages and treating miscarriages are not the same as treating abortion. Newsflash, ABC. Newsflash, Democrat Party. But see, they actually know that. They actually know that it's just a politically useful lie to spread to smear their political opponents and get people to vote against Republicans so Democrats can get elected. That's all that was. That's all that ever was, okay? Listen, before Roe v. Wade, like in the 50s and 60s, when abortion was illegal in most states in America, did you know this? Did you know that in states where abortion was illegal in the 60s, guess what? You could still perform a DNC to remove a baby already passed away naturally because of a miscarriage. Oh my gosh, how were they doing that? Because that's normal. Because treating miscarriages are different than abortion. Because the DNC to remove a baby who's already passed away naturally, guess what? Not the same as going up the vaginal canal when the baby is healthy and fine and ripping limbs off. One is a tragedy, one is murder. One is unfortunate, one is calculated. Comparing a mourning mother with a murderous mother is disgusting, Kamala Harris. But that's the lie that was used in many state-level governments to actually get pro-lifers to vote against protecting preborn children at the state level, because they thought it would mean that my aunt or my sister or my wife who has a miscarriage would just die from infections because you can't remove the baby because that's technically an abortion. You have to have your head so far up your own rectum to believe this. And this is what was spread on national television 2 days ago, and the moderators didn't push back or say anything. It's almost like it's all one cabal, and they all just work in conjunction with one another to destroy this country. That is very, 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 very frustrating. All right, well, here's Kamala saying, we have to reinstate Roe versus Wade. Play clip.
When Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law.
So there you go. That's what we're facing. Do you understand? Do you understand the threats? If Kamala Harris is elected, her goal is to either pass an executive order, which I think the Supreme Court would overrule, or if they get all three seats of power, if they get the House, the Senate, and the presidency, oh my gosh, the damage that they will do to this country might be irreversible. So that's the goal. Just when someone tells you who they are, believe them. Like, I hope you understand. Like, the goal is to have Roe v. Wade again, to punish states that try to protect the preborn. And if we have Roe v. Wade again or something like that at the federal level, and governors are defying the Supreme Court, defying the Kamala Harris administration, God save us, to ban abortion at the state level, then they want to send federal troopers to arrest people banning abortion at the state level, and now we're at civil war. Okay, do you understand? That's where we're going. That's what Kamala Harris wants, just so we're clear. Almost done here. Here's a clip about Kamala Harris saying that that Trump wants to monitor your pregnancies. That's right. That because obviously that's what every Republican wants, right? Play clip.
Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages.
So no one wants to monitor your pregnancies, but what we do want to do is, even though Trump doesn't want to do this, this is what I want to do, and this is what the pro-life movement wants to do. We want to ban abortion at the federal level, and if there is a baby that is killed through an abortion, or we have reason to believe was killed illegally through an abortion, then we want that to go through the same court system that we have for any law breaking, for any homicide, okay? Like if you calculate and you kill an unborn child when it's illegal, then we just want that to be treated the same as when you kill your toddler, or you pay someone to drown your kid in the bathtub or in the pond, or you intentionally kill your toddler. Like, I don't understand why this is not complex, right? If the baby's a baby and it's a person and it has the same rights as you and I, or as any toddler, then shouldn't their calculated murder and killing be treated the same as the killing of an infant or a toddler? And if we're not willing to treat it the same, by the way, guess what? Abortion will never end. Because if abortion becomes illegal, but then there's no penalties for killing unborn babies, then we're teaching the country you can break the law. You can even take innocent human life, but nothing's going to happen to you. And so what's going to happen? People will just get abortions anyways, and it'll never end. So it'll be illegal on paper, but nothing will actually change. This is not complex, folks. We need equal protections for the unborn child. All right, we're almost done here. Here is Kamala Harris's late-term abortion stances, and Kamala lying once again regarding what she supports. Play clip.
Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth.
Well, there you go. So Kamala Harris just lied on national television 2 days ago. And while ABC News would say that Trump was lying about multiple things, they would never say that Kamala was lying about multiple things. Guys, Roe versus Wade and its companion case, Doe versus Bolton, allowed abortions through point of birth. How do I know this? Because I can go to Planned Parenthood and the Guttmacher Institute's website, which is Planned Parenthood's statistical research branch. I can go to the CDC and I can look at how many abortions were done at the annual level in the 3rd trimester. So if I can look at numbers of abortions performed in the 3rd trimester, then that means they were happening, which would mean, wait, stay with me, they were legal. And Trump just said that they were legal under Roe in the 3rd trimester. Kamala Harris said that's not true. Wait, is that a lie? Yeah, where's Reuters? Where's all of our fact-checking agencies? It's disgusting. Final clip. Here is hilarious. I don't even know how to set this up. This is what Kamala Harris is for. Play clip.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal.
So, I love that. He calls it transgender operations on illegal aliens. That phrase packs quite a bit there. That phrase is pregnant with meaning. By the way, Kamala Harris did all of that. Okay, actually, before we show you the screenshot and proof of the transgender operations on illegal aliens, let me first address what Trump said. Guys, you can go find right now the old tweet in the Wayback Machine of Kamala Harris talking about a fundraising link to pay the bail for BLM activists. That's the first thing Trump said. Did you hear that? What did he say? He said she went up Minnesota and raised funds to pay the bail, get them out of prison. Yes, she did. Kamala Harris tweeted out a link where you could pay the bail to get BLM activists that summer of 2020 who were burning down Minneapolis and cities all around the country. Pay their bail. Get the lawbreakers back out on the streets. That's radical. Okay, she did that. And then secondly, and this is hilarious. Okay, here's a clip, okay, of literally coverage at the time Okay, Kamala Harris told ACLU that she'd fund trans surgeries for migrant inmates, decriminalize drugs, and end ICE detainers during 2020 campaign. Okay, during 2020, when remember, Kamala Harris ran for president, right? And she was a pathetic, horrific failure. And she told the ACLU that she would use your taxpayer dollars to fund genital mutilation surgeries for people whose first action upon coming to our country was to break our immigration laws, enter America illegally, end up in prison for breaking the law, and then say, I think I'm a woman now. She wants to use your taxpayer dollars to cut off his penis of someone whose first action to America is to break our laws, and then claim that he's not really Sam, he's Sally, be transferred to a women prison in California under Gavin Newsom's legislation, the state that Kamala Harris served as a senator. And then if he begins impregnating female inmates and then requests to have his family jewels cut off and get estrogen implants, your taxpayer dollars should pay for that as a Kamala Harris campaign promise as she's running for president in 2020. Has she changed her positions? Because that's too radical? Oh my gosh. The last 60 seconds of my speaking should not be allowed. That's not that our culture is so stupid, inverted, and ridiculous that I would have to even talk about that. And by the way, here's the article right here. Transgender surgeries for migrant inmates. The then senator from California affirmed that she would use executive power as president to ensure transgender and non-binary individuals, including those in prison and immigration detention, get access to all necessary surgical care. What surgical care? Transgender surgery. She says, I support policies ensuring that federal prisoners and detainees are able to obtain medically necessary care for gender transition, including surgical care, while incarcerated or detained. She wrote. So when Trump is saying these things in that clip, and Kamala Harris is like, no. There you go, guys. Thank you, Internet. Well, anyways. Everything is stupid. That's our hot takes. Those are our responses from the debates, guys, here at the Seth Gruber Show. Share these clips, share this episode with people. Maybe this will go viral. Maybe some Americans will learn how much the media is lying, carrying water for the radical left, the Democrat Party, the abortion industry, the killing of babies. Listen, we rip Trump when he deserves it. We hold his feet to the fire. He needs to defend the unborn. He needs to be the pro-life president when he ran on being pro-life. But the contrast here couldn't be clearer. All right. Kamala Harris is a demon. She's a witch. She's a high priest of paganism and humanism. And if she'll murder the unborn and cut off the genitals of illegal aliens identifying as Sally in women's prisons in California, she will go after you too. She will go after anyone that poses a threat to her political power as she kowtows to the radical left, licks her finger, sticks it up in the wind, and see where the culture is blowing at that time. Absolutely disgusting. And by the way, Kamala Harris knows a lot about blowing, and that's all I'll say. About that, go back to the Wayback Machine if you want to understand why I just said that. Oh, Seth, that was crass. That was not nice. That was inappropriate. I'm sorry. I'm just talking about things that are happening. There's been well-documented coverage of how Kamala Harris was actually the first Margaret Sanger. She slept her way up the levers of power. She understands how the political game is unfortunately played in America in the 21st century. If you guys want to join the White Rose Resistance and help us here at the Seth Gruber Show, go to YouTube and subscribe. Go to Rumble, okay? I'm probably going to get digitally assassinated one day at my YouTube channel. Go to Rumble. Make sure you subscribe and support the show there, okay? Give the 5 stars on iTunes. And if you want to join the White Rose Resistance, go to thewhiterose.life and become an ally of the White Rose Resistance. At $35 a month, you get a battle box in the mail. You join our digital community on a platform called Circle, where you get courses, curriculum, live calls, the AJ Hurley podcast coming out soon, exclusive for our allies of the White Rose Resistance. And at $70 a month, the air support level, you join our book club and we read a book together, and then you and I talk about it live on Zoom, and sometimes the author shows up. It's super cool. If you want to get the book and screen the film, The 1916 Project, that's taken the country by storm. Listen, guys, we just just signed with Angel Studios. It's the most highly rated, approved documentary ever submitted to Angel Studios, okay? Go to the1916project.com, press host a screening, and host a screening at your church. But pick up the book. You can get it on Amazon, or you can get it on the1916project.com. And the hardcover of my book comes out with a fold-out timeline of all the dates and the events and the weirdos of the 20th century that architected our culture of death today. You got to go get the book. And if you're listening to me, if you're a faithful listener of the Seth Gruber Show, will you go to Amazon and hit 5 stars and leave a really positive review? The left is already trying to bomb the reviews, and the film hasn't even come out with Angel Studios yet. Once it comes out, the left is going to turn out like crazy. They have whole Facebook groups. Did you know this? They have whole private groups on the left for deciding which conservative Christian books are a threat so that they can mobilize and go and leave 1 stars and write nasty reviews. So go leave us a review, leave 5 stars, pick up the 1916 Project book right now at the1916project.com. Guys, share this. This is the truth behind the political parties. This is the truth behind the presidential debates and the lies that the media carried water for. Until next week, I'm Seth Gruber, and this is The Seth Gruber Show.